welcome back to another just sweaty, meaty episode of the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their magic. Sex magic, blood, sex, sugar magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and partially formed red guy. All right. Before today, this is an epic night for the pod, as we'll get into. Just the fucking sweatiest, juiciest, meatiest movie of all time. Speaking of just liquid meats, guys, it's official. We're on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. The very double feature you're about to hear programmed today came from one of our fine patrons, our friend Jason, over on Patreon. You guys can join the club and have this power over us as well. You summon the Patreon box and we'll appear in our tightest little leather outfits, clacking our teeth while I'll bring the chains or ratchet straps, whatever you want, guys. So that's patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. You can get in for as little as $1 a month, meet our community, check it out. As you climb the official Highlander tier ranking system, you yourself have the power to select a double feature, vote on movies, Patreon exclusives every month. You have the ability to hear some of the mini features we're working on, all kinds of cool stuff. We're working very hard to make sure our Patreon is the most value for your dollar. So again, guys, that's patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. For those of you who support us already, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, it's been an exceptionally awesome month, birthday month for me. Just gift that keeps on giving this pod. And thank you guys for that. For those of you who are about to join us, thank you as well. Welcome. We have such sights to show you. Make sure you go to YouTube if you want to make sure what hot outfits we're wearing and all that kind of good greasy stuff. The channel is Film Alchemist. Subscribe there. You can email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all the social media you're on. We're there too. We're easy to get a hold of. Love to hear from you. Something free and easy you can do so that we put the chains and whips and straps away. Leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you find the pod. Everywhere you find the pod, all at once. Everywhere all at once, sexually speaking. That helps us defeat the algorithmic Cenobites that are coming to get us. I don't know what's happening. I'm so full of blood sugar sex magic. Was this the first video on the stepmom tab on the hub? No, just kidding. That might be the most offensive thing anyone's ever said about Hellraiser. So, again, guys, I mentioned before, tonight's double feature was programmed by one of our friends over on Patreon. Jason decided, he heard me talking earlier in the month, right, about how sometimes when we pod, it's really scary to tackle your favorite movies of all time, right? For fear that you will not be able to properly convey to the audience how much you truly love these movies. So as a gift to yours truly, Jason said, hey, man, go for it. Why don't you do it? Do Hellraiser and Highlander. And I said, all right, game on, man. If that's what you patrons want, you patrons specifically, Jason's not many people. He's one nice guy. So Jason laid down the gauntlets, the gift as it were, and we took it. We took the challenge. So tonight, we will be talking about two of my favorite films of all time. No matter what ranking you gave me, these two films would always be in my top 3, 5, whatever, favorite movies ever. The double feature, the Wobbly H double feature, Hellraiser, and Highlander. Highlander, of course, being my favorite movie of all time by miles. We are starting tonight with Hellraiser. I am afraid I will never be able to tell you guys how much I love this movie, how deeply it means everything to me, how this is a foundational horror movie love of my life, right? This set the tone. This is the movie I'm always hoping to find when I see new horror movies are coming out. This was the VHS box in the video store that the moment I saw it, right, just penheads and chains in that puzzle box, you're like, whatever the fuck that is, I want in. My little brain and body didn't even know what the pleasures of the sensual flesh were yet, but I knew I wanted whatever this movie is. And when I finally was able to see it, it felt like true dark magic captured on film, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Alex, kick us off, man. Hellraiser. We were very different little boys. Yeah. Not the sexy stuff, yeah. Oh, it's like that. Okay. Yeah. You were finally having sex and oh my god. Okay. What is happening? I feel like I'm in a drive-by right now. What is happening? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But not even that. I think it just announced him in a way because I just think he's the forgotten most influential guy in modern horror. Because it's really easy to look back at Stephen King and, all these other great directors and, people who were crafting the modern horror. I think the aesthetic and the vibe of Clive Barker is truly lost. When you read Clive Barker's books, or I've read a lot of Stephen King, very rarely do they actually like rattle me, right? I enjoy his, kind of interpersonal tales about people, really good ideas, right? But they're just little tales to me, right? When I read Clive Barker, I'm like sweating. It feels unsafe. And again, this is what Highlander tapped into to me. And it's what I get back to. I had this discussion with a buddy of mine about music, right? And they got really mad at me. It was a really dickhead thing to say. But I was just like, I mean, come on. We were having a couple drinks and we were talking about bands. And every time he's like, do you like this band? I went, eh. And he's like, well, why not? And I go, well, you just seem to have a taste for forgettable music. And I just told him, I was like, when I listen to music and go to concerts, I like this idea that you are connecting with some universe beyond, right? That there's some kind of power and magic in what's happening. And I think music is uniquely capable of that experience, right? And I like that when you feel it in your soul, like you might crack open and some, mysterious beast might crawl forward. Neither here nor there, right? And that's not just a metalhead guy thing. I think you can find that in all kinds of genres of music, right? I feel that way listening to the Beatles sometimes. Neither here nor there. I think Clive Barker taps into this in such a way where he always felt truly unsafe to me. Where I was afraid of what, every time I turned the page or watched Hellraiser, I was afraid of what I was going to see next. And I grew up, small town Indiana, trying on and off to kind of be religious, right? Really conservative area. So the idea, the first time I saw Hellraiser, man, this could have been alien to me. Like the idea of this, right? Just like Frank's Fuck Shack and the chains and the whips and the fucking mutating body. I mean, everything in this movie melted my fucking brain. But what you notice today when you watch it, the attention to the meat and the flesh and the sweat and the blood and the cum, in the way that this is all intermixed with anger and depression and rage. It's so like, in a way, like, this movie's the reverse Frank, right? It boils the human experience down into this fucking disgusting hot dog glue. And what it hands back to us is this tasty, dark delight. Hey, you find me someone who's eating more hot dogs than me, and I'll shake their goddamn hand. I am a goddamn hot dog apocalypse on wheels, my friend. First off, how dare you? Me and 13-year-old Prince Fielder, for those of you who are Milwaukee Brewers fans. Mm. Yeah. Oh. So I'll tell you this specific. What you said's a great point. I remember watching this, and the next time I was in church, and I didn't like burst into flames. I remember looking around like, I know something you don't. Right? I felt like Damien or something. Mm. Sadly, a little bit more than politics. Because that's what everyone wants. More of that. Yeah. I think that's just called being a decent human, right? I think you can take the fanatic out. Yeah. Yeah. Let's have a code of ethics that we don't cram down other people's throats and treat others less than because they disagree. Fine. Yeah. Your parents are angels to some, demons to others. That's fine. Well, they had to put you to bed, and then they got out the chains and the VHS. Yeah. It, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think to me as you get older, right? Because this again, I've always it was steep to me early, and it was the one. Like, I remember there are a couple, right? Like, you get this or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Hills Have Eyes. There are a couple of these movies that you heard like, dude, if you find that and you watch that, you're gonna see some shit. And very few of them ever lived up to that billing, right? Where you're like watching them alone because you know you're not supposed to. You're just like, oh, fuck, fuck, fuck. Like, I've done it now, man. I opened the door. I can't close it again. And so that's how I remember it, right? This tale of monsters, right? And one of the things I love that we'll talk about later is the way the monsters exist in the same place as we do. Like Beetlejuice, right? Our walls just become doors where they can walk in. And that was fucking scary to me, right? You see these, creatures with their fucking monoliths covered in flesh and face or whatever. That's easy to understand the fear. As you get older, I think, and this is kind of the problem. I don't know if we should spoil anything here, but as you dive into the Hellraiser series en masse, it's been a very mixed journey, right? Let's just say a lot of valleys, not as many hills, right? We'll put it that way. And what you realize as you get back into them more is because they really didn't. I feel like most of those movies didn't really appreciate the genius of this one, which is Julia is one of the great characters in a horror movie ever. a fully relatable monster that you quasi understand, right? This movie is about a human being who, like the puzzle box, is worried that no one will ever be able to open them and find all of the great stuff inside. And because she just feels unseen and this mousy little creature, when she meets this person who is clearly bad for her and dangerous, the length she's willing to go to give up pieces of herself to feel that, to feel open and exposed and feel danger, right? The scenes with her and Frank are very fucking intense. And that subtle thing that I think many of us feel deep down inside, especially as you get older, right? You're just afraid, like, fuck, like, am I doing it for my partner anymore? Am I still attractive? Do they still see me? Are we just used to each other? Have we lost the love, right? You feel this isolation a lot as you get older. And watching Julia's mutate into this, and just this collision course with this fucking living hard-on that is Uncle Frank, that is what makes Hellraiser. Julia is the great monster of this film, right? Because Frank and the Cenobites are what they are. She is the person who you feel sad to see her go on the journey. You feel the stakes of watching her become more like Frank, right? And that is what makes this one so good. Pinhead and the Cenobites are used very sparingly in this film, right? They became the poster and the icon. But Julia is the fucking very rock of this movie. Right. That VHS cover is what fucking draws you in, for sure. I mean, honestly, I don't think it's that absurd, man. It's something that I didn't fully understand as a much younger man. I think the movie offers plenty of evidence that neither of these brothers are ideal partners. This is a woman who feels alone and unseen, so she dumps a couple of leches in an attic so that she might find true love. Next week on Hallmark. Boom. Well, let's dive into Julia more, man, because honestly, I rewatching it today, right? I've watched this movie a fuckload. But sometimes when you're watching it for this pod and you're doing your notes and whatever, you hone in on little details that you might have missed in your more casual watching, especially a movie you've seen so much, you might not pay attention as much. Like, I know this shit. I was really taken aback today that there were so many more moments where Julia was showing pause and remorse for the journey she was on. In my mind, I've always seen this as after the first moment when she comes back in the middle of the night, right? And she's like, he goes, you'll do it? I'll do it. Excellent. Whatever he says, right, Uncle Frank? I thought she was just like a Terminator after that, like a remorseless killing machine. That's how I imagine it in my mind. That's not the fucking movie at all. Julia, you see her struggle with this still throughout, right? Because the first kill even, I was really struck by this scene. It was really well acted, right? So she brings this traveling fucking, bald guy back, and he's kind of coming up on her, right? And she's almost hesitating, right? Like, rebuffing his advances, right? This is not the master predator luring its prey into a trap. Until he goes, you're not going to fucking back out now, are you, bitch? And he starts, like, giving her the tough talk. And you see that switch in her mind where she goes, all right, you fucking also think I'm a less than. You also think I'm this chicken shit person. Let's go up to my fuck attic and find out, right? And you see in that moment, there's still hesitation, right? She hits him and she has that rage on her face. That, dude, with the effects in this movie are obviously wonderful. But the carnage of that first hammer attack is fucking brutal. But then she runs to the bathroom. She's really fucking struggling with this. So walk me through Julia as the not Terminator, right? Like, even when she comes back, and this is a scene I love when Frank's like, come over here, I want to touch you. And she's like, no. Frank has to go to her. This is not just her becoming his, loving Renfield. She's still fucking scared and horrified because she knows what she's on the path to. I think I was a kid, and when you're young, if you hit someone in the face with a hammer and feed him to a muscle guy, like, I think that's bad. Yeah. I was like, my mom wouldn't like that. Mm-hmm. There's the one shot. It was her second or third one, right, where she pretty much hits the guy, and then she's lounging on the white couch like she poured her own drink this time. She's not afraid. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Never, not sometimes, like pretty much never. Unless you are going to get murdered. If you don't murder, that's about it. Yeah. Yeah. Or if someone talks in a movie theater. Those are literally the only two. That's it. The rest of the scenarios we should be able to discuss as civilized people. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's pretty fucking relatable, man. Um, I think there is this problem that adults have, right? Where I think so often, so many of us just feel totally hollowed out. We feel nothing. We're very apathetic. We wake up and go through the same shit every day. Sometimes that border between pleasure and pain, you're like, I just want to feel something, right? Have you ever had like an injury in your mouth and you just can't stop fucking rubbing your tongue? You can't fucking help it, right? Yeah. And you're like, okay. And I think that's what it is. So Julia, as portrayed by Claire Higgins, right? One of my favorite horror movie characters. I think watching this journey is really fascinating to me. The first time we find out about her and Frank, right, as we start to unveil this, they intercut her affair, right? This sweaty fucking affair, right? Like it just tits and sweat and all this, right? With her husband's hand getting fucking Larry's hand gets ripped open by a nail. And they intercut between the two, right? They do this a lot in the movie, right? They intercut between her orgasmic scream, right? Frank's release with Larry's fucking blood being drawn, right? So there is this constant mingling of pleasure and pain. Losing blood and dying, losing blood and living, life-giving semen and wasted seed, right? Like there are these constant juxtapositions. Even Larry walking up, reaching out to Julia for help is what fucking gives birth to Frank again. Right? His moment of weakness literally gives birth to this fucking monster that will destroy his life. In just a moment, even where that's another fear that adults have, right? Like he's not enough now. He's less than. He can't do it all. He's not the rock of the world. I think you can make a pretty good case that Larry is a pretty big douche in this movie. You don't feel tremendously bad, and you're like, yeah, most people would probably choose Uncle Frank. We've all got like the red flag regrettable relationship because it was more fun. when he when Julia's like, "Hey man, we just moved into this stinky fuck shack that's full of rotten food and cockroaches. You've been bleeding all over the floor. The water's spraying your daughter around. She's coming in fucking waving her hatred for me in my face. Maybe let's pack it in at midnight." And he goes, "This is the Paper Hat Club. We're celebrating." And just doesn't care that she's not a part of it. Once his doofy friend's there, that's a douche. That's a fucking douche move. Not only that, okay, so here's the subtle thing I forgot happened in this, is when whoever the fuck invited Wish.com Steve Gutenberg to the party, and she says, "Stop giving me drinks. I won't be able to walk." He goes, "Maybe lay down." And dad just goes, "Oh," like gives her like nice line. Like, "I'm going to try that." I'm like, dude, that guy's trying to dick down your daughter by getting her overly intoxicated. Yeah. Yeah. This might be a moment to be like, "Hey, fucking Wish.com, it's still Steve Gutenberg." That's the closest analogy. It's like, "Do you want to get fucking rocked, dude? I'm going to fucking drown you in the blood from my hand wound because I'm probably not a great fighter. I'm going to take you upstairs so Uncle Frank can have a face sit with you. Is that what you want? Back up off Kirsty." Oh, just a top 10 favorite moments in any movie of my life. It's kind of this beautiful puppet claymation thing. It's Yeah, I mean, we're probably just old, so that's our vibe. But like, I like the texture, especially in a movie like this. You need that fucking texture, right? You need to feel the goop, and when he kind of emerges, oh my god! But I'll say this, right? So we talked a lot about Julia. There is one more thing we got to get to with Julia, but uh, Uncle Frank is just fucking rad, and not early Uncle Frank, right? Where he's kind of doing like a fucking Wish.com Billy Zane thing, right? Like, not that Uncle Frank. Uncle Frank, who has been torn apart and reconstituting himself, right? Just the makeup of that today. I was just watching. I was like, God, of course this is one of my favorite movies. Because when he's kind of like mostly cartilage and he's just like greasy, he looks like he's covered in Cinnabon frosting and shit. And he's still trying to talk to her and touch her and slipping his fingers in the body to pull all the viscera and grossness out. One thing I thought too, like just every scene, right? Like when they're downstairs watching boxing and he's like crouched above them in silhouette. The fact that he's, smoke, I can taste this now. But the thing that fucked me up today was when he started wanting to wear suits. Just blood-soaked suits. I'm like, that's just a fucking awesome choice. And it is a brave choice to say, you know what I want to do? Cover up all the prosthetics. I'm sure the actor was like, "Please, God, give me a suit and, like, save me 6 hours." Sean Chapman is the actor, but yeah. Yeah. Larry's just like, "God damn, it's Suit Tuesday. What's up, man?" Because those guys were not Frank builds. Yeah. Oh my god. No. I just watching Frank move through the scenes. It's so fucking powerful. Well, because there's no fucking cheek fat like us. We got cheek fat and cheek skin. He's just got. Oh yeah, normal Frank. That's how he gets away with the mullet, man. I was gonna say he looks like one of the Lost Boys who like grew up and had to get a warehouse job, and he's like, "Damn." You know what I mean? Like it just has that vibe. But he just has so many lines I fucking love. Like that moment when he kind of descends upon Kirsty the first time, right? When oh my god, that moment when the fucking guy runs out and he's like half drained and Frank's like, Kirsty. Yeah, and she runs in the room and he's just like, you're beautiful. It's like that's your fucking niece. You probably held her as a baby. But he just goes, I think he said like you'd make your mother proud. I can't remember, but he says something. What can you do? What will you do? But then he has this line, and it's kind of the Frank thing. He's like, some things just have to be endured. And that line, like, fucking cut me to the soul today. It's just such a fucking horrifying sentiment, right? But that's just who this guy is, right? We just see him, like, even Julia, when she's desperately trying to keep him. And they just, finished a session. He just goes, it's never enough. And you just see Julia just, I will do anything. And he still leaves her, right? And at the end, he just throws her away like... So the ending with Frank and Julia, right, where he stabs her, a part of me thinks he misses that on purpose and just guts her. And he just, nothing personal. And he drains her. And the look of raw betrayal on Julia's face as Frank takes the very last bit of her humanity. I mean, Frank is just the perfect movie villain. But you know what's funny is because Frank doesn't follow the maxim that you always hear, right? The best villains think they're the good guys. Frank absolutely knows he's the bad guy. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. Well, I think Frank's also, again, ultra relatable. It's weird that I find so much in Hellraiser ultra relatable, but we all know these people. How dare you? I'm a puzzle box that can't be twisted. Um, Agree to disagree. How dare you? I'm like an unclamped nipple. I can't be tamed. Uh, they're my two movies. If I had only two, these are them for real. Evil Dead, Texas Chainsaw. Like, there's a lot of others close, but these are like above the others. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, man, I think we all knows people in our lives that are just so. And again, I think you don't have to look very far to just find insanely selfish people that just have no fucking worry about the consequences of what they're doing. And so you look at Frank and we feel like Julia, right? We sympathize with her because we're like, please stop going down this path. But you're like, we've all done it with someone before. Just a selfish taker, right? Because they are here for themselves. And I think it's one of those things, I think so few of us can understand what it's like to fully live detached from any form of morality, right? Like I am not religious. I don't believe in any religious dogmas, whatever. I still have a code of ethics that I follow. I don't run down the street just chopping heads off and shit and running people over because I'm in a hurry. I still believe that there's a way to behave. And Frank is one of those rare people that it just instantly, it's like chewing on aluminum foil, right? It's just instantly going to get right at our nerves because you're just like, God damn, it's insane to just imagine someone like that. But they're out there and we all fucking know them. All right. I think we'll save let's just do Kirsty real quick. I think Kirsty is one of the least interesting final girls in kind of horror movie history. She gets a better opportunity in part two to kind of do some work. Kirsty feels very much like a function of the time. And just kind of needing that character in the movie. I think Ashley Lawrence is really good in the movie. I like what she's doing. As this person who just doesn't trust Julia, knows something's up, is worried for her fucking douchey dad. She does fine. She just doesn't get a lot to sink her teeth in except for running scared from monsters. What did you make of Kirsty in the film? Yeah. Mm, mm-hmm. Well, no, I mean, at the start of the movie, yeah, she's like, oh, I'm dressed like Elvis Costello. I'm going to kiss this guy in a subway. Yeah. I I think it's just the function of the writing, but I think you see when she is face to face with Goopy Frank, right? When she is face to face with the Cenobites, right? Cenobites, whatever. I don't know why I keep fucking Cenobites. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying right now. It's very late, but anyways, I also had a tetanus shot today at the doctor, and I am fucked up. Ouchie. Yeah, it's been 10 years, man. I was just like, I saw Hellraiser. I kind of want some metal in my flesh. You know what I mean? So I did. Neither here nor there, but I'm a little loopy. Not from the tetanus, just from lack of sleep, like a normal grown up. But watching her face to face with that, right? And then Ashley Lawrence, I think, just explodes off the screen in that final bit at the house. When she runs in and is confessing to her father what she's seen, and watching her have that slow realization of what's up. I think she's wonderful in that. She's one of those who's become a beloved horror icon in the community. I think because of those, she didn't get a lot of scenes, but when she got one, she fucking nailed it. So I didn't want to shortchange Kirsty or say less. I just don't think they gave her as much to do as some of this. Yes. Yeah. So now we got to talk about the main attraction, man. Pinhead and the gang, the puzzle box. Doug Bradley as Pinhead in this movie is my favorite horror movie monster. That look, the setting, the voice, his fucking voice. I mean, it feels like the voice of a god coming through the TV. In a movie like you said, it is very surreal and had the potential to not age well. I have never not bought into the reality of Pinhead. I think that's why it's one of my favorite. Like, there's a couple, right? When I watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I buy into the reality of Leatherface in that film. This is the same. Every time I watch that movie, I feel like I'm actually watching a demonic entity enter the screen. His voice and his look were so fucking perfect as the Hell Priest, as Pinhead, right? Um, just fucking loved this guy so much. Mm. Hey, we grew up in HBO real sex, so you're like, there's just accountants who are like, turn me into a bicycle and put cheese in my butthole. You're like, all right. It was me with Dr. Shredder today. Woo! No, I'm just, but again, because most of us adults just want to feel anything that is not the crushing weight of routine. And you know what I really latch on to the older I get watching this is they talk about, so when they come in, right, we're explorers in the further realm of experience. Demons to some, angels to others, whatever. I latch onto that so hard at this stage of my life. It's what Frank said. It's never enough. If you live a life where you can't fucking understand that sentiment, then good on you. I feel like weirdly my wife is like that. Like she's one of those very contented, well-adjusted people. Like my wife is not trying to get fucking chained up, in like the meat room of this movie. But I think there's a lot of us that you watch this and you're like, I don't know, man. I might risk it just to fucking know that there's something else past this, right? I like that, because then this is when she does the deal, right? Where, I know where Frank is. No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering. But that line, I'm telling you, this is the line that, like, forever, I'm like, I'll always love horror movies. I'll always love being afraid. The first time you hear and the camera, like, swoops in on him, we'll tear your soul apart. I was just like, holy fucking shit, man. Like, Jason's just out here chopping up co-eds and shit, right? Michael Myers is just mad his sister had 22 seconds of sex. Freddy Krueger is like in your nightmare. Like, they're like, we will rip your fucking soul apart. And for some reason, when I was little, that sounds so much scarier and more threatening than anything I'd ever. Because what is that even? I mean, the depths of insanity. Yeah. Yes. They could be nearly infinite. Vast. Who knows? Yeah. Oh, no. What? They're essentially sexual Uber drivers? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. You think Pinhead's at like intergalactic Top Golf? Then all of a sudden he's like, oh, God. Another sweaty guy just opened up the cube. I now see part two disagrees with me, but I actually think it's very inspirational that they still find pleasure and enjoyment in their craft. I think that's really nice, man. For me, I'm just like, it has to suck to be like, God, the same palette again. Just like, oh yeah, you fucked so much you can't fuck anymore. Fucking's not good enough for you. We gave you coffee and sex and back cracks like that, and now it's not good enough for you. You are in for quite a journey, my friend. It's not as much like they exist in other. In one of them, the puzzle box is an entire space station. Yeah, pretty much exactly it. Mhm. I I mean, their plane of existence definitely exists, right? They take us from here to there. Some of them they begin to bleed together. So yeah, I mean, if there's two separate dimensions, there could be a plethora. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. They're like the Ghostbusters. The siren rings, they jump in the box and ride, man. No, but as you learn, the Cenobites were all humans at one point. So these pleasure, like eventually Frank could become a Cenobite, right? This is kind of they like a corporate culture where they promote from within, right? Yeah. Well, I think they've done enough hooking each other. Like, what do they do? Just him and Butterball are like, hook me, oh, hook me. How dare you? Pinhead is never tired of bar sinistering himself. Not for even a second. That guy is a consummate. He's the Dwight Schrute of this universe. He is fucking happy to be there and works hard to be a company man. No, Frank's a Jim coming in thinking he knows everything, staring at the camera. And then Pinhead's like, oh, nice smirk. I'm going to rip your fucking face in half and you can smirk for all eternity. Yeah. Oh, love that. Okay. Yeah. You know what's funny? I wrote that exact shot into a comic book years ago, and I had totally forgotten about it until watching it today. I was like, oh, fuck, I just ripped that off from Hellraiser. And I was like, hey, steal from the best, as they say. Granted, like everything else I write, it'll never be seen by the public, so. So it's not a theft, it's a victimless crime. I mean, they're fucking burned into my brain. But again, imagine that our bodies are a finite resource. But everyone out there wants to. I read a thing in light of some of the news of the day where this lady posted, she's like, it's wild being a straight woman because you're forced to constantly date your only natural predator. And I was like, Jesus, that's fucking heavy. But in a way, it got me thinking about this movie where there's always someone out there that wants to take from us. Take. And we're never enough, right? They'll use you up and throw you out. So I think the parallel between what the Cenobites are and then what we are is not that fucking much, right? Like they can pizzazz it up. They're probably a little more creative about how they do it, but the way that we just fucking take, like even Frank, right? So, or not Frank, Larry. There's a scene when, yeah, Frank's upstairs. He's starting to fuck around. He's getting restless. So Julia tries to like throw the hots on him, right? Ooh, ooh, kiss me. Don't go upstairs. He's like, let's go upstairs. I'm a man. I look at storm shit. I'm a man and who's never seen a horror movie, so I follow the sounds, right? No, go. Yeah. Yeah. Go fuck your wife through the sheet or whatever you do, you fucking square. And they go upstairs and get in the bed, right? And this is a moment I'm going to ask you about in a sec, but so they start getting into it, right? Larry, of course, is just not interested in foreplay, it seems. He's not even going to take his fucking sweater off. Well, Frank emerges from the closet, right? And he's got a rat, and he cuts the rat in half, hinting at that's what he's going to do to Larry. And she's just like, Jesus, stop. I can't take it anymore. And Larry gets really mad at her. He's like, I don't fucking understand you. So in Larry's mind, he thinks that she's really afraid of the storm. She goes upstairs and is like, maybe we can be pleasurable. When fear overtakes her again, he runs out to go to his masturbatorium, I assume. Again, not taking off his sweater and T-neck. And he has so little compassion for her in that moment, right? Even Larry in that moment is like, this woman is overcome with fear or something. I'm mad that I had to go jerk myself off in a sweater and T-neck. He shows no compassion for her in the same fucking way we saw Frank. Every single person feels like they're taking, right? Something is, at least in this, most hideous of love triangles. I don't think Kirsty's doing that, but I think that is the parallel nature of just how everything in this world wants to consume us. It is just fucking terrifying, man. I was gonna ask you about that though. Do you think Julia? Why do you think she tried to save Larry, or do you think she was really trying to save Larry? Oh damn! Shots fired. No. Right. Well, beside this movie, the big critique of Julia is that she's Mrs. Prim and Proper. And I'm like, well, that's not as cool to be mean to as Hammer Murderer. Mm, mm, mm. Why is it always an unlit attic? Don't you guys decorate with IKEA? Bright colors for your sex dungeons? What the fuck? You could get some pastels and some stuffies in the corner. So harsh on my dong. Get some Chinese lanterns to soften the glow in your sex dungeon. Yeah. I yeah. I vibe with that, right? Cuz in that moment I think it's her last chance to see if she's going to go all the way, no pun intended. And I think in that moment she realizes she doesn't have enough of a bond to Larry to truly save him, right? She saves him for the moment, but I think in that instant she knows like what is left of her is gone, and she's going to see this through with Frank. And low key underrated horrifying element in the movie is Frank wearing Larry's fucking face. I was trying to watch it today and think back to the first time. Just straight up horrifying. Yeah, but I was trying to imagine back, right? The first time I saw that, did I know immediately it was Frank? How long did it take? I think it took me like a couple seconds. And when you have that realization, it's like, oh, fuck. I remember the reveal scared the fuck out of me, but I don't know if I was out ahead of it. When he goes, come to daddy. Ugh. No one should say that ever. It's like the least sexy thing. It's Uncle Frank and my dick. I'm back. You can almost smell the too much cologne Frank must wear when he says stuff like that. Oh, that sweat, silk, and too much cologne that just drives the ladies mad. You know, we all know that guy. He just walks in, he's like, yeah, I'm just here to fuck whatever. And you're like, yeah, we can smell. We know. Those aren't pheromones, my friend. That's Calvin Klein water in a fucking little glass jar. We know. It's called cologne. Yes, every Christmas I got a bottle of cologne, and it was Tommy Boy. That was like a Cole's Delight, was like a medium price bottle. I remember being in middle school, like, why do I need this? And mom was like, it makes you smell good. So, like, it took me a while, and like, before I realized, like, you don't need like 10 to 15 sprays. I used to wear a lot of sweaters, so, like, they were just soaked in Tommy Boy. Never that. I was too cool for that. None of that. Yeah. My mom just bought us clothes and handed them to us until I was old enough to go to concerts. That was it. Yeah. Every Indiana boy smelled like Tommy Boy. But yeah, man, just watching all of this, right? And then this horrifying chase, the thing when the corpse pops out and just pours maggots and it's like a close up of Kirsty's boobs. I was like, again, it's such a fucking, you feel like you can smell and taste this movie, right? It's so fucking visceral. And then of course, like the iconic fucking moment, right? Is when the Cenobites come out and they got fucking Frank, right? And because Frank does the line like he was dead long before we touched him, right? About her dad. I'm like, this guy just mega douche, like committed. And again, I'm telling you, when the lights come up and Frank's eyes go big, because I think it's another underrated element is that the Cenobites just appear wherever you are. You can't lock the door. There's nothing holding them out, right? They exist right in top of you, almost if they come from within you. And he comes for her, right? And the hooks start getting it. Uh, and then yeah, Leatherface or not Leatherface, fucking Pinhead does the "This isn't for your eyes," which is a really cool scene because not more than 3 minutes later, they're trying to specifically kill her. So he just thinks he's like, "This is too cool. You can't see. You didn't pay your membership." No, they're like, we need more meat for the pile. But when Frank is all, again, because I think back, I think I saw this for the first time when I was like 8 or 9 years old. And so seeing that face pulled out, and Frank's like, he's licking his lips and smiling, Jesus wept. And he just like turns into a pile of meat and hook. And again, I talk about this. Yeah, fuck yeah. Frank is still fucking laughing in the face because he's a nihilist. He cares about nothing except for Frank. So I guess he's not a nihilist because he cares about Frank at his core. But it's just one of those things when you see that as a kid, you're like, that is just indescribably cool and scary, unsafe. It makes me want more, right? This movie turned me into a little Frank where you're like, I need to find more of this dark hidden magic. That scene is just the fucking coolest, man. And there's not really anything like very clever I could say. I'm just like, yeah, that's just fucking rad. Like that just melts my face. It's awesome. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that what the Dick Scorpion's called? The engineer? That's his fucking job? He's like an international or intergalactic fucking mechanic. I thought that was just like a dick scorpion. I thought he was a guard dog. Wow. I'm just saying, they say dress for the job you want. That seems wrong. Yeah. Yeah. My weird one I know is that I think the vagrant is called Indromite. He is the puzzle box guardian. I don't remember where I gleaned that. But see, even something like that, right? Like that guy coming into the pet store, right? As Kirsty's getting fucking besieged by Karen and sounds and whatever. She comes around the corner and just sees this homeless man who seemingly to survive has come in and just dips his hand in the fucking cricket box and is just eating bugs and staring at her just, what? Like, why is this strange to you? Get out of here. You get on out of here. But even that moment, I was like, just imagine you're at work and you turn the corner and there's just a fucking guy eating a bug. Like, there's just so many small, visceral fucking moments, right? My kid was a bug eater last summer. It's very creepy, man. But he's my own flesh and blood, so I'll tolerate it. But this movie just is loaded with sound. We didn't even talk about just that fucking thumping score. Just this epic, like you can imagine the fucking darkest, most evil church, right? Just fucking this, like the rafters shaking with this score. Wonderful, man. And yeah, I know the end when like you got like some lightning drawing going on. Somehow she's turned the puzzle box into a pea shooter and is getting rid of the Cenobites, whatever. I don't fucking care. At that point, you've given me so much great shit. I don't give a fuck, right? Do I care that there's a bone dragon at the end? Yes, I do, because it's fucking awesome to watch that guy grab the thing and light on fire and become a fucking bone dragon. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you guys. And then it starts over again where we began, right? What's your pleasure, sir? And we just know that there's an infinite supply of humans where it's never enough. Pinhead's like, oh, I just got on this Rush pinball machine and I was at the high score. Damn it. Butterball's never first. He always waits and finishes his Rush pinball. Yeah, Rush, I will tear your soul apart. And they're like, not today. And Geddy Lee and the band just start fucking riffing on him. I think Rush could defeat the Cenobites. That's all I'm going to say. But I'd also like that to be a movie that existed for me to enjoy forever. I don't know what to say, man. This is the movie experience. I think I have like 5 or 6 of them, right? Like when I went to the theaters to see The Matrix. There are just movie experiences the first time you see them that live up to or so exceed what you were hoping that you're not just turning on something to pass the hours away. You're fucking changed at a very genetic level. That's what Hellraiser is for me. And I love it unabashedly. My second favorite movie of all time, behind the movie that will cap off this double feature to end the pod Grease's Griff Month. The pod kneels before Griff Month, because I'm the good guy of this story. I know that in my heart, so I'm going to keep going down this path. The pod puts hooks in Alex's Nips Month and makes him dance for my pleasure and leisure. But anywho, as a capper of the gift, we'll be discussing my all-time favorite movie, Highlander. So today, guys, we hope you're having fun with us. This is a day about gushing. We're just going to gush about movies that I love and hopefully you guys love. So that's it for Highlander. Thank you very much to our patient, or Hellraiser. What did I say? Fucking Hellraiser, one of the wobbly H double feature. Thank you to our friend and patron, Jason, for picking these movies, man. You're right. It was nice to actually do them. I was afraid, but that felt fucking fun, man. It's the fucking best, man. How could you not? There is no demons to some. It's just all pleasure over here. The furthest pleasures. Pleasures. I had to fucking peel myself off the floor. Neither here nor there. So we'll be back in one moment with the second half of today's double feature, Highlander. There can be only 2 today for this double feature. So again, guys, if you have a double feature you'd like to hear, if you want to hear some exclusive episodes and have a vote in what those are, you want to hear some mini-series, go on over to patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. We assure you every little bit of support means the world to us. So if you can, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you for those of you who already help us out so much. Subscribe to the YouTube, Film Alchemist. The email is filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on all the socials you're on. Leave those 5-star rating and reviews wherever the fuck you find the pod. Every fucking where you find the pod. And that helps us out a lot. That's it, man. I'm running out of mouth spit. This movie sucked all my juices out. All I am is just meat and hair at this point. That's the point. Some people are going to be like, ooh. And that's the thesis of Hellraiser. Bye!